There are so many different ways in badminton how to cover the court in terms of footwork. And in this video I want to show you the most important and most common techniques and footwork patterns, how to cover the front court and how to be as fast as possible but also efficient when your opponent plays you to the net. Alright, before we start into the first specific footwork patterns, there are two things that you need every time you want to cover a court in the front court. And first of all, that's a split step where you want to create some pre-tension to push off faster off the ground and get faster into the corners. And then you always want to end up doing a lunge with your dominant leg, no matter if you're going to the forehand or the backhand side, and push out with that leg again off the corner. If you're not familiar with these two techniques, then I would also recommend you to watch my two videos about the split step and the lunge, and I will link both videos in the description below. But with that said, we want to dive into the first footwork pattern, in my eyes the easiest one, and this is when the shuttle comes to my backhand corner. It's not too far away, so I can reach the shuttle with just doing split step, push and a lunge. So you see I'm doing the two elements I just talked about. I do a small jump to create pre-tension, push off with the right leg, and then go forward with a huge step into the lunge. So the split step here is directional. So I'm trying to get my right foot into the opposite direction, so I get better push into that corner, and I can cover quite a long distance with that huge step and be there really quickly. On the forehand side, it gets a little bit more complicated, because here, with just doing a directional split step and a lunge, I do not get very far into the corner. And usually, or many times, I need an extra step, and here I want to add in, most of the times, a chassis step. So the footwork looks like this. So once again, directional split step, chassis step, and then I go into the lunge. A quite cool pattern to practice that footwork is the song "We Will Rock You" from Queen. So you have that rhythm like, and you can try to use that rhythm to get into the right footwork pattern. So it's like, okay, so these are the basic patterns to the backhand and the forehand corner, but sometimes you need to cover a little bit more space. For example, if the opponent plays really close to the net, or if you're maybe standing a little bit further back, or also if you're maybe a little bit shorter. So if you watch shorter players like, for example, Akane Yamaguchi, the current world champion in women's singles, she is very short and she uses many different techniques to get into the corner. One of these techniques is just adding running steps. So for example, if I have to start from here and I want to go into the backhand corner, it's not enough to just do a lunge, so I have to add in some steps in between. Same thing, maybe also on the forehand corner. I do a big step with the left and then the right. There are also things in between if you do not have to cover that long distance, but it's just not enough with the basic techniques I showed you in the beginning. You can also, for example, add a cross behind on the forehand. So the left foot passes my right foot. That will help me to get a little bit deeper into the corner. Or on the backhand side, I can do a little jump on my left leg. So to get some extra distance and to get closer to the net. So compared to just doing a step like this, I can get all the way to the net and cover a lot longer distance. So far I've only talked about how to get into the corner, but of course it's also super important how to get out of the corner and how to recover after you're hitting in the front court. And there are also different techniques, and first of all we want to focus on the different things what you can do to get out of a lunge. And basically I would say there are three different things that you can do to get out of a lunge position. First of all, the maybe easiest thing when you have almost no pressure, do a very small lunge, then you can just push right out of the lunge again. So if the shuttle is really close, just do a lunge, and with doing the shot at the same time, try to already push out when the shuttle has left your racket. So this is the easiest version where you have almost no pressure and only do a very small lunge. As soon as you go a little bit deeper into a lunge, you will feel that it costs you a lot of power and it will get extremely hard to push out with one big step out of the corner. And this is many times also super inefficient, and that's why in badminton you want to use also a second technique I would call a recovery step. And by recovery step I mean doing a short step quickly after hitting the shuttle that gets you into a more comfortable position from where you can push out of the corner afterwards. The recovery step will also give you a lot more balance for your recovery, especially when you go deep down. Sometimes you start losing your balance a little, and that step will help you to re-get balance and, as I said, give you a better position to push out of the corner explosively. So this will save you energy, and in the end you can also try the difference. It will also be faster many times compared to doing that big step. So try to split that up when you're deeper in the lunge, short recovery and then out of the corner. There is also a third option, especially when you are really low, when you have a lot of pressure and when you play a high lift. So in those cases you want to follow up with your non-dominant leg. So in this situation it can be difficult to do a recovery step or can also cost a lot of energy. And when you play a high lift from that situation, you have plenty of time, so you do not have to recover as fast as possible, but you want to try to be as efficient as possible. And that will happen when you just follow up with your other leg and then go relaxed out of the corner. As I said, important, this will only work when you play a lift, because when you play a short shot at the net and then follow up with your leg, you will expose your complete cord, and this will make it very hard for you to cover the rear cord afterwards. But when you're deep down, no matter forehand or backhand, follow up with the left leg as a right-handed player, and then you will feel that it's a lot more easy to get out of the corner again. You do not have to push so hard, and the left leg can even help you with that recovery here, so I can push a lot earlier from that deep position. So the next question is with what kind of steps you want to get out of the corner back to the middle. And this also depends on the situation. So for example, if I'm just playing short to the net, I don't want to go back all the way to the middle. That's also impossible in that short amount of time. I want to play it to the net and then just do a short chassis step. It's still covering the net, and usually also my dominant leg stays in front. There are a few exceptions. You will maybe also see sometimes current world champion Viktor Axelsen doing something like this, so opening up again. But many times also in the beginning I would recommend to just do a short chassis step back where you keep the dominant leg in front and be ready for maybe another net shot, or be ready to push to the rear cord from there. So when you play a lift, you have to be ready to be in defense afterwards. And when you play a flatter lift with not so much time afterwards, try to stay really low, and from the forehand try to use chassis steps here, or from the backhand a quick and flat step back into the middle. So like this, backhand like this. When you lift a little bit higher, you have more time. You can also try to save some energy there by going a little bit more upright back and then going back down for the next split step. So like this. So you see I'm using smaller running steps. It's more a relaxed way of the recovery, because I do not need to hurry when I play a really high lift. I have some time. I just have to be ready when my opponent hits the next shot. Last but not least, something a little bit more advanced. And in the beginning, I was talking about a directional split step where we only have a good starting position to push into the backhand, or like this, push into the forehand corner. But many times you will realize that you do not have that perfect starting position, or when you play, for example, a high lift, you will most likely do a parallel split step to be able or to be ready to defend. And now it gets a little bit more tricky to start to the front court. And in those situations, now try to focus on what's happening with my left leg when I'm trying to cover the backhand corner from that parallel split step, or on the forehand side. So maybe you've realized that I'm not doing a complete new split step. It's not like I'm doing this and that, but I try to correct my position, especially the first foot that is correcting is the left leg for me as a right-handed player. Left-handed players, it's the opposite way. They have to correct with the right foot. But for example, if I go there, I'm doing the split, and now I want to change the direction by pulling the left foot in. On the forehand side, I have to get the left leg behind me and transfer the power from the sideway movement from my first initial split to that forward movement and to get to the forehand corner. This is maybe also the most tricky corner for many players. So if you're able to play really close drops to the forehand side, this is extremely difficult to cover. We've also seen in the beginning that the backhand corner is easier to cover compared to the forehand because we need some extra steps, and the same thing goes for these defensive situations. This one here is a quite tricky footwork for many players in the beginning, and they will have a hard time covering that corner, especially when they are in defense and they do not know where the next shuttle will come. So much about footwork in the front court. If there are still some questions left, definitely let me know it in the comments below and I will try to get back to you there. And as usual, don't forget to hit the like for this video, subscribe to my channel if you're not already following, and then see you next time. Bye bye.